a good idea to actually share. Right. One moment. Okay. All right. The topic for today is trust for big data in cloud computing environment. Okay, basically, this is the outline of my presentation. I will generally talk a little bit about cloud computing and big data, just some recap. I think most of us know about the area. So I will take the opportunity to recap and highlight a few things. And then we'll start looking at the research that we did here. Okay, looking at the problems and the concepts, the keywords that trust, and the objectives of the research method, and basically the overall outcome, the overview of the outcome of the research. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, this presentation is actually part of a research grant that was completed in last year. These are the members, and we had a research assistant to actually help us with the research work. Okay, I'm listing these few examples of cloud computing that has become quite pervasive in our daily life now. Cloud computing, basically, in a nutshell, is the delivery of on-demand IT resources over the internet. These resources can be networks, storage, servers, applications, and services. Right? Cloud is incredibly versatile. Right? The services covers a wide range of options now, and I've listed in these two slides some common examples that you can see now. We have cloud computing in social network, and these are some examples that I encountered in our investigation that relates to this particular area. Okay, we have storage service of cloud computing, we have online streaming platform, chatbots, communication media, productivity enrichment, business management, marketing cloud platform, application development, testing and deployment, big data analysis, cloud computing on education, and we have iTaklim as an example that we use in our education. Cloud computing in healthcare, cloud computing in business area, IoT and cloud computing, deep learning and cloud computing, disaster recovery, cloud storage backup. Basically, it's pretty much any service that does not require you to be physically close to the computer hardware that you are using can now be delivered via the cloud. Right? Cloud computing is developing so fast that we cannot predict what will happen in the future. Many people thought cloud computing would vanish, just like many other technologies. But it is a game changer and ready to offer more excitement with long-lasting solutions. Cloud computing can be considered as the backbone of today's data-driven industries and app-based tech ecosystems. Technology is expanding and many changes are yet to come. These are some important cloud computing trends that we may see more of in the near future. Now we have serverless computing, function as a service, edge computing, multi-cloud and joint cloud providers such as Oracle, Microsoft, joint cloud, big data, cloud computing and IoT, disaster recovery services, automations and optimizations, data security and hybrid cloud computing. Right? And we have many different types of deployments. We have private, public, we have hybrid, we have community. Right? So things are looking up for cloud computing in the near future. Okay, now we turn to big data. Okay. Big data is kind of a buzzword used by marketing people to refer to data, that is huge and complex to be processed using the usual methods. Right? It is basically a collection of data, right, from various sources and in various forms, unstructured, semi-structured, and structured data. Right? But there are some characteristics that we can identify this data falls under this category. Previously, we know about three characteristics. We have volume, variety, and velocity. But along the way, over time, more V's are added to represent the characteristics of big data. We have virtual, we have volume, we have variety, veracity, velocity, visualizations, variability, and value. All right. Big data and cloud computing, what's the relationship? But they are different. They are distinct, two distinct different technologies or ideas, but now the two most used technologies in today's IT world. They have differences. They are different in terms of definition, right? They are different in terms of the reference, how they are used, the formats, and what they are used for. And they also have like major differences across different kinds of categories in terms of concept, characteristics. You have seen big data characteristics of cloud computing is different. You have that public cloud, we have private cloud, right? Accessibility, when to use them in terms of cost, but both are actually cost-effective solutions for any organizations. Job roles and responsibilities. Like cloud computing, we have our cloud engineers. In big data environment, we have these data scientists, we have data analysts. So different focus, types and trends, right? And also vendors. Right? In cloud computing, we have like AWS, we have Google, we have Microsoft, right? So in big data, we have Cloudera, we have Hortonworks, we have Apache, we have ACP. Right? So they are different in terms of what they address. However, we can see there are relationships because now, right, they are very much interwoven and almost inseparable. When we talk about cloud, there's always data there, right? So how does the data, the cloud computing environment relates to big data? This is just one illustration of a relationship between big data and cloud computing. All right, this is just an analogy that I picked up. In any computer systems, we must pass through certain main stages, right? Just like in any computer systems, we have input, we have process, we have output. In big data and cloud computing, right, the input is done through devices. Like cellular devices, we have smart devices. Right? In computer, we have also input from devices, and it goes through the CPU for processing, and you get the output. After that, the results, right, will be in the form of information that are produced. Right? Same thing with big data and cloud computing. The big data entered through devices, right, such as smart devices, cellular devices, even the mouse also, from the keyboard that we typed. Right? And then processing is carried out through tools and techniques used by the cloud computing in providing the service. And then the output are the results. It represents the value of the data after the processing, right? In what forms that you want. So in the processes, we have many kinds of technologies that facilitates that. Right? We also have the conventional ETL. Right? We have also others, Hadoop, MapReduce, a relational database management system, NoSQL. These are the platforms. Right? ETL basically is because sources for big data are varieties. So there must be some way to integrate all this data to facilitate the processing and also the visualizations later. Right? So basically, in a nutshell, this is, I feel, a good illustrations of to show the relationship between big data and cloud computing, from end to end. Okay, so now this brings us to the research problem. Now, while there are benefits from the usage of big data in the cloud computing environment, the inherent vulnerabilities of a cloud-based environment, the complexity of big data landscape, and the convergence of these two environments have also brought several challenges. Right? Many cloud service customers have not fully taken advantage of the application of big data in the cloud due to doubts in the trustworthiness of the cloud service providers. The CSPs, CSCs, the cloud service customers, the CSPs, the cloud service providers, compliance to security and privacy commitments. Right? This is perhaps just one aspect of the challenges, right, in terms of the trustworthiness of cloud service providers, compliance to security and privacy. So what we thought of in the research is to look at further into the perspective of cloud service customers on what they look for in their criteria to trust basically the service providers. Right. This is basically the scenario currently. This was taken in 2018. However, things have changed slightly since 2020. Based on surveys by Malaysia Digital SME Studies in 2018, Malaysians do use a lot of these different technologies, cloud, IoT, data analytics. However, the take-up are not that high. Majority have not used some of these or any of these, but some do. But when they do use, it's very restricted in terms of the solutions. Like for example, cloud. Cloud basically more towards storing of data. Storing of data, the online storage using Dropbox, using our Google Drive, and much less in terms of applications. But we do have 35% here. Okay. In terms of IoT, we have about 35%, but it's more focused on building security and surveillance and fleet management. Okay, same thing with data analytics. They have used, many have used, but not that high. However, the usage is more towards usage of spreadsheets, Excel. Excel is also very powerful. However, there are a lot more solutions out there which can offer better analytical platforms. So people are using spreadsheets. Even many organizations, big organizations that I have the opportunity to have a look. They use a lot on Excel spreadsheets. And in general, this was taken by an online magazine. Malaysia's cloud adoption is slow but steady. However, according to a recent survey by Harvey Nash and KPMG CIO survey 2020, 47% of the respondents noted that the COVID pandemic, had permanently accelerated digital transformation, and the adoption of emergent technologies, with cloud technology ranked the third. So things are picking up, but I do not have details on what kind of technology within that people are using now. All right, are they still the same, using spreadsheets, right? Using only storage areas, or just simple software as a service platforms? Okay, now going to the trust. Right? What do we mean by trust? A lot of studies in cloud computing looked upon definitions from the social science aspect. Right? So this is one that we see definitions that was used prevalently in many other studies. Okay, trust is a mental state comprising expectancy. The truster expects hope for a specific behavior from the trustee, such as providing valid information or effectively performing cooperative actions. Believed. Belief. Okay, the first one is expectancies. Expects hope for specific behavior from the trustee. Okay, believed. The truster believes that the expected behavior occurs based on the evidence of the trustee's competence and goodwill and willingness, all right, to take the risk. The truster is willing to take risk for that belief. All right, so you want to trust the trustee, all right, the person, the providers for the service, for the cloud service or the big data service that you desire. Right? So the keywords here, the expectancy, the belief and the willingness to take that risk for that belief. So trust basically happens when companies can put the data, right, in the cloud without any second thoughts, right, which is very difficult to do because data is stored outside the premise of the companies. It is very difficult to say that they can trust the situation easily and have a peace of mind with that aspect. Okay, trust is built upon the proof of the trustees' competencies and goodwill. All right, so in this particular research context, it is the goodwill of the trustee in handling the data and the computing needs, right, on a remote server that the truster does not own. Right? Several trust methods have been proposed by different authors, right, to evaluate that trust, right, between the CSCs and CSPs, the customers and the providers, based on several models. We have SLA-based model, we have reputation, we have based on recommendations, we have trust as a service and others. Many of these trust models, however, were developed for cloud computing with less emphasis on the data aspect, even though data, right, shows prominently or a prominent feature in the cloud computing environment. And furthermore, most of these models, right, provide methods for selecting trustworthy cloud service providers. However, we do note that success of a relationship between the providers and customers depends on the ability to provide that relationship value continuously, not just in the beginning part, right? It is continuous process, right? Not just at the initial stage, but lasting, right? This will improve the CSC satisfaction in the service provided by the provider. As the relationship develops, the belief in the competency and the goodwill should foster, and subsequently the trust would develop and be sustained. So that basically sets the stage for our research. Okay, so the objectives basically to determine the extent of big data application in cloud computing environments in Malaysia with a limited number of companies and respondents that we managed to get throughout the research. And secondly, to discern determinants of cloud service customers' trust for big data application in cloud computing environments. All right, so we performed a qualitative research. Data collection and preparation for our pilot and actual study took place for a period of, I think, around 5 months in 2019. Luckily, we finished off before the MCO, the first MCO. Pilot study was conducted with respondents from 2 different companies. Actual study was conducted with respondents from 10 different companies. However, one of these companies also appears in our actual study because it's kind of difficult also to get companies to actually provide feedback and spend some time with us. All right, but however, the respondents are different people. Yeah, in our pilot study, basically, the respondents managers, right, for the same company. Yeah, but in the actual study, it was the CEO. Right? Okay, respondents were basically IT people lah. Those people who are familiar with the cloud and also big data. They are senior software engineers, IT managers, directors, and CEOs. Right. From there, we use thematic analysis, right, using qualitative data analysis software, Atlas TI. Okay, these are basically the companies in the study, quite a variety. We have the areas here. We have from electricity utility company, we have technology development companies developing solutions of green tech, fintech, telco tech, IoT, and esports. All right. For the actual studies, we have the operations and maintenance service provider in the oil and gas sector. We have companies that deals with fast food, wired and wireless telecommunications carrier, high-end security, payment security, and organization security solutions company. We have also companies that provides IoT platforms and related tools and services, communications and project management consultancy services, digital telco, digital businesses, and infrastructure provider. We have organizations in cybersecurity and resiliency advisory. Quite a number in security area, security posture assessment, managed security services, and ISO 27001 consultancy. Okay, and this is the same company as the above in the pilot study, yeah, but different people. Okay, so basically the organizations included small, medium, and big organizations that are mostly involved in IT or technology-related services. There's even though we have one in fast food and also electricity, but they are IT people. Two organizations are actually CSPs, while others are CICs. We get what we can get. So even though we have CSPs, but the perspective, of course, is towards the customers. So they are able to give us good feedback because they have a lot of clients. All of these organizations adopted cloud computing with big data at the very least for their email platforms. So it's quite a variety of solutions that they employ in big data and cloud computing. From the most minimal and towards good solutions for the company in terms of billing, in terms of delivery systems, in terms of the HR, customer data. So a variety. However, I think majority or most of the organizations appear to be very cautious or still restrained in adopting cloud services. So they want to use it, but there are certain things that are holding them back. Right. The common cloud platforms adopted by the organizations in the study are Google, Microsoft, Amazon Web Services, public cloud, with a few using private cloud and locally owned platform. This is the thing that they highlighted. When they employ like private cloud, they would go for locally owned platform produced by a number of providers, and I think two of these organizations have their own, I think, cloud platforms. Several use software as a service, and a few use platform as a service. Okay, basically what we observe from our analysis, there are several criteria that we gathered, and we formulate that according to this particular diagram, where we feel that most of the companies have certain trust on the providers, provided that they are happy with the services. So basically, the keyword or the highlighting item here is that service satisfaction, right? And what makes them happy with the services? There are a few elements here that we gathered, and some of these are pretty much talked about in the past literature as well. For example, like data protection. One thing that we encountered when these organizations highlighted to us some of the factors, they highlighted on privacy, they highlighted on security, and they highlighted also on risk management. These are basically part of the data management book of knowledge. Yeah, when we talk about data protection, we have these three items: privacy, security, and risk management. And coincidentally, all right, most of the managers, most of the respondents also highlighted on this. So we have data privacy, data security, cloud benefits, all right, reputations, service level agreement, and risk management. Okay, service satisfaction. From a consumer relationship viewpoint, satisfaction can refer to consumers' post-purchase evaluation of consumption experience with a service or product given a pre-purchase expectations, not just initially on the beginning, yeah, but the experience for using that service. Yeah? So that constitutes service satisfaction, not just only in the beginning, but throughout. Okay, part of building customers' trust is always meeting what they need according to their expectations. This was highlighted by the organizations. If they're happy with the services, then the trust eventually will develop or fosters. Okay, thus service satisfaction measures how satisfied CXCs are with CSP services. Okay, based on service satisfaction, cloud provider can decide on how to improve its services. Like service satisfaction may lead to trust in using big data application in the cloud. Okay, data privacy, right, in a consumer context can refer to the protection and appropriate use of the personal information of customers and the meeting of expectations of customers about its use. Okay, customers need a level of confidence in how any data is handled to make sure they are not at risk of a nasty, often public exposure. Right? So this involves putting in needs of mechanisms, right, for proper usage, for collection of the data, for retention of the data, for deletion, and also for storage of the data. All right, three approaches employed by the respondents. Right, so we can categorize them into these three approaches. Okay, non-critical data in the public cloud, non-critical data in the public cloud owned by local company to obtain some feel of control on the location of the data. They want the data close to them. They do not want the data to be like out there somewhere. Yeah? So they want to feel that certain protection towards what they have. Critical data such as customer data and billing data, right, in the private cloud. So they clearly make that distinctions between what they want the data to be in the private, public, or elsewhere. Okay, data security. According to Robinson, Valerie, Cave, Stuckey, and the rest, security concerns confidentiality, availability, and integrity of data or information. Security may also include authentication and non-repudiation. Right. So to them, it's about policies, methods, and means to prevent unauthorized access to data and verify data accuracy in files. Right. So this also relates to that privacy part. Yeah? This one of them mentioned when they see that data is accurate, they feel that their privacy is protected when they see nothing happens to the data in the files. Continuously monitoring, they also highlighted some of the security needs where they feel strongly about monitoring data at every endpoint of cloud platform. Right? Control of the data location is very important to them, and control in the storage of highly confidential and less confidential data increase the security protection for the companies. They highlight that distinction between what they feel data is confidential and less confidential. Okay. Next is the benefits. Yes, yeah. The reason they employ big data in cloud computing environment because of the benefits. Right, so no doubt about that. Respondents use cloud because the cloud provider can provide them acceptable services and enables the users to enjoy the benefits of the cloud usage, be it IaaS, or PaaS or SaaS. Because they're all opened for use to customers as a pay-per-use model where they pay only when they use the cloud services. All right, cloud characteristics of ubiquitous network access, economies. This is very true with the organizations that we talk to. These are also highlighted in past literature. Economies of scale, ease of use, pay per use, elasticity, customizable, and location independent resource pooling attract companies to use the cloud. Respondents also cited business continuity, established, available, and affordable, right? Cloud computing services and big data services that compels them to use to go for cloud services. And they want that business continuity. They want it to come from somewhere that's established, or some providers that established must be always available and affordable. But they emphasize that cheap part. I think that's the Malaysian characteristics. Yeah, we want good service, but we want it cheap. Okay, reputation. Okay, reputation is always highlighted in past literature at the beginning stage. Yeah, which provider to look for? Yeah, it's always about reputation, the history of the providers, the services that they offered to the clients. This is also very true. Yeah? Reputation also influences the organizations, not only just the beginning, but throughout. Yeah? So reputation is about how the cloud users view the cloud providers when choosing the cloud services to be used, and also throughout the services used. So good history and proven skills. Reputation is important because the feedback of other cloud users can influence the reputation of a cloud service either positively or negatively. This is also true for the organizations. Consumers' trust is built upon the reputation of the cloud service providers to be able to ensure security of data. If the reputation is positive, then the service satisfaction will also increase. Okay, and next is the service level agreement. All right, this is the importance of this cannot be highlighted enough. All right, so it defines agreement. SLA defines what services are given and what will happen to the cloud provider if the cloud users are not satisfied with the service. Okay, two parties have to agree on priorities, responsibilities, services, guarantees, and warranties of the cloud providers towards the cloud users. Right. SLA is the only way to clarify on the accountability and auditability of a cloud provider before the cloud users can trust them. Okay, most respondents stated that SLA is needed to increase the trust level towards cloud provider, and they highlighted that in this SLA should include how security is being handled, data usage reliability, and response time in SLA. So SLA helps them to trust the cloud provider and to use the cloud facilities peacefully. So there must be also a way to actually monitor the achievement of the SLA. Okay, risk management. Risk, according to this COSO definition, is the possibility that an event will occur and adversely affect the achievement objectives. So risk management, on the other hand, covers the identification, assessment, and response to risk. Risk is that events, the events, the likelihood that it will happen, and the impact it will cause to that particular services. And of course, in order for us to address risk, we have to manage that. So risk management covers these steps. In cloud computing, the physical infrastructure and at times the software used to process the data are owned by the service providers, but the data are owned by the consumers who alone understand the value of the data and the effects of losing data security. Okay, unique characteristics of big data and cloud computing warrant the need to assess new risks raised and re-evaluate past risks according to these emerging paradigms so that the risk can be managed to acceptable level. In the context of the organizations, they highlighted a few things, having vulnerability assessment team, right? Proper reporting, regular scheduled reporting mechanisms for customers, and using third-party audit and assessments. These are the items highlighted by them. Okay, that's all. I think for all the factors highlighted by the organizations. Okay, so I think I've finished my presentation for today. So I think that's all. Right, thank you. Just a little bit of sharing from the research that we had and with the organizations that we went to. Thank you.
Thank you to Dr. Lili. So if you have any questions for Dr. Lili.
Assalamualaikum.
Salam. Yes, Prof.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lili. Thank you, Dr. Asma, Siti Asma. I think this is a very interesting sharing on research findings on big data. I think the big data, and cloud computing, these are emerging technologies, and many organizations are moving towards adopting these, technologies. But I would like to just ask your opinion, maybe on something which is a bit general and on the issue of openness, because when we talk about big data, normally we will want to correlate our internal data with data beyond our organization borders, so that we cannot just only make decisions or maybe plan for something based on our internal data, but also data or insights that we get from other companies, other organizations, or maybe data in certain sectors. But what is your comment on the openness of data? Because you mentioned about trust. So is trust an issue when it comes to making certain data open? Because if people are not ready to open up their data, then maybe the idea of big data may have a lot of challenges. So in the world that we live now, we need to collaborate, we need to work together, and the traditional philosophy of always competing, who is better, may not be sustainable. So what is more sustainable is to not having a head-on competition, but perhaps more collaborations, working together in the network world. Okay, because this is the world that we live now. What's your comment on that? So the readiness of our organization and sectors to.
Yeah. Okay, that's not okay. We did not cover that kind of trust. The trust here is between two parties, in terms of the services. However, I do understand that aspect. It is always an issue. Maybe we can do further research on that. Openness of data. We are making steps towards that. Previously, data is very silo within the organizations, and slowly we see things are more opening up. We have that government data being shared. We have many platforms to actually share data in different platforms, like in our GitHub, in many world. You see many websites, web portals now releasing a lot of data. But of course, data are being screened before they can be released. Even for our if we are in this COVID pandemic, I always find it difficult to get Malaysian data because we do not share raw data. But even in the global area also, people do share data, but not all kinds of data. But now we can see, right, that Ministry of Health is also opening up by sharing the data on GitHub. And we can see a lot of analysis. People are very excited to do that. And it's the same thing with the organizations that we managed to interview. They clearly make that distinction between what the data that they want to see and not to see. we are getting there, but I think we cannot be revealing too much because there's a danger and risk to that. So it's a balance lah, basically. Um, and you have mentioned about networking, collaborating. That's another way, another strategy to go about it, because we need to actually do analysis, predictive modeling, all kinds of other analysis. We can turn to strategies like that to actually get data, but also when we do collaborate, not everything that people can share. Right? Not everything people can share, but at least it helps us to improve on our decision-making competency. We do not need to know all. Sometimes with the amount of data that we have, also we do not know what to do with them. Because data is not just purely data, it comes with the people who's going to make use of that data, the wisdom, right? So when we talk about intelligence, we talk about analytics, right? So that's also a progression, data, information, that wisdom, that knowledge that goes with that. So that's what I think, basically. Thank you. There's a question here from Dr. Nomazia in the chat box. How do you get the companies to cooperate in your research? Okay, that's a good question. It's not easy, but we use our alumni, the universities, our previous friends, alumni. We are in an alumni group, and we are at this age where I think we can see the what our students have become, our colleagues, our friends have become. So our alumni are quite successful in that sense. Yeah, they have companies, they have good networks. So we use them. We use them, all right, to help us with getting the companies to cooperate. Alumni network, yes, correct. Yes. My friends and the research assistants friends, basically. We have some of us have our alumni group, WhatsApp message in our handphones, so we make use of that.
Thank you, Dr. Lili. So any more questions?
Okay, yeah, that's one question from, are they all local companies? Yes. Yes, because we want to investigate the Malaysian context. Malaysian context, and Malaysian companies are going there, but they still have that restraint here, even though they are SMEs, but we do not get a lot of companies, just 10. And in fact, an extension to this, of course, we are going to actually do quantitative research out of the information that we got. And so far, alhamdulillah, we make use of LinkedIn. All right. LinkedIn. That's another platform, LinkedIn. All right. They do they do respond to you quite immediately also. People in LinkedIn, many of them are professionals. We use that mechanism as well. So we also do surveys, all right, from the information that we got. And alhamdulillah, we do get some good response. How can your research findings be useful to others? Okay. Okay. How can your research finding be useful to others? Well, I used to do my PhD also looking at service providers and customers. All right, but at that time, there wasn't any, not there wasn't. At that time, cloud computing and big data was not really the in thing yet. And looking at relationships between customers and service providers, you can see, right, the common factors. You can see the differences in whatever technology. All right, technology progresses. Right. I used to do that in a separate environment where I look at physically IT projects, physical IT projects, and critical mission projects, strategic projects. And now we're moving towards the virtual environment, where a lot of things are online. But we still have that customers and providers perspective. right? So you can see that distinctions, you can see that commonness between these different perspectives. All right, so we can build upon that to always develop new things to improve our services to the customers, be it in the physical form, be it in the online form, in the cloud form, right? So some of these things, all right, I do see that when I did my PhD, right? So service satisfaction, right? What influences improvement in the services, right? So the criteria, some of these are common, but now, all right, we get new things highlighted, like data now become very valuable, right? Previously, we do not really think about data. Data is data, but now in a different kind of environment, different technologies, data has has formed different shapes, right? Different shapes through different mechanisms, right? Different types, different formats. Okay, I hope that answers your question, Dr. Namazia. Maybe I'm being very philosophical at the same time.
Thank you, Dr. Lili. So is there any more question from the audience?
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Prof. Nabik, takut.
Relax, Dr. Lili. I always enjoy listening to your talk. So I just want to share our experience. I think Dr. Sarima can even compliment me. We have some experience adopting cloud using the iTalim cloud. And it has been quite interesting, especially relating to the topic that you gave today, which is very much on trust and security and so on. Interesting thing is even Azure, we opted for Microsoft Azure as the cloud provider. It was a real tough decision. Some ada nak pilih whether we want to choose Azure or Amazon. Both wanted to give very good deal to the UIA, being, like macam UIA is the first university that adopts learning management system using cloud. After that, even we heard a few other universities also use it, but they also went through a nightmare and horrendous experience as far as using the cloud. And last year there was actually an incident of ransomware with Microsoft Azure, and a lot of files were actually encrypted by the attacker, and we really balloon hard on Microsoft. I took it up sampai ke CEO of Microsoft, CEO of the country CEO of Microsoft, K. Raman. But he happened to be an old friend. So a friend is a friend, but I told K. Raman, you better protect your reputation, because otherwise we're not going to use you in the subsequent, we might go to Google or Amazon and so on. But what I wanted to share is, but we keep it in our circle sini lah kot, within the UIA. Then the cloud is under the My Digital Plan, just released and announced by the Prime Minister and the former Prime Minister. The public sector is really serious going for the cloud. The target is 80% of public sector should migrate to the cloud by 2022. And we in the university, we really want to align ourselves with this as well. But in the country, I mean, the cloud principle, there are now 4. Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and the latest one, Huawei. They are not supposed to sell directly. They must go, I guess this is government policy, through a third party. And the Ministry of Higher Education now already chosen a third party local company that become the, I think what Dr. Lili used as the CSP, maknanya dia ni bukan Microsoft. They are a Malaysian company. They are supposed to be delivering that service on behalf of Microsoft. This company for MOHI and for Malaysian, I mean for the universities, is Infrasys. It's a local company. And interesting enough, when we implemented our Ta'lim Cloud, this company won't learn from us. I mean, we had this problem earlier in the university, in ITD, because to us sometimes, when we engage cloud, when, for example, on a certain time, we have 1,000 students. Suddenly it becomes 1,500. So to us, it just increased the memory, increase, and so on. Whereas in reality, that's not the way it should happen. That is just called horizontal, the way of managing things. The more important part is the vertical way, the vertical enhancement of the cloud. This is the skill that even these cloud providers appointed by the government pun tak erti, gitu. And we were lucky because we learned from someone, a very good guy, who taught us in ITD how to do this vertical enhancement. And we ended up teaching this company, yang providing service for Microsoft, how to do that, gitu. So it is, in my opinion, my experience, yes, the government is very enthusiastic about moving to the cloud, but the experience is still lacking. And we had attack, we had severe incident, and the file were not successfully decrypted. Microsoft couldn't even get who was the attacker, and we were very, very upset with Microsoft Azure as the provider. So there are a few things that are also interesting on the issue of PDPA, for example, Personal Data Protection Act. Before this, all the clouds were in Singapore, the nearest ones. It's only lately that the government were more serious that, yeah, the cloud servers must be in Malaysia now. Microsoft mula-mula wanted to have it in Sanai, but I think they changed their mind now. They're developing their cloud in Cyberjaya or something. And Amazon are also putting it here. And the issue of PDPA and GDPR has been very sticky issue to the government, because when you put confidential information on the cloud and you're not even sure that you're going to get a good service, and these servers are in Singapore, in Chennai, or in India somewhere, and so on, we get very nervous about this. And there have been ways the Malaysian government tried to do this. For example, for the servers in Singapore, for Microsoft, our discussion with, for example, Dr. Zaha, he guaranteed us that there is a Malaysian expert who is in Singapore, Microsoft, who can be vouching for the security of Malaysian confidential information, even if it was stored in Singapore servers and this kind of thing. But I told Dr. Zaha, I'm still not comfortable with your model. Unless Microsoft put their servers in Malaysia, then we are more comfortable. Alhamdulillah, today, the 4 providers, they responded by promising the government, yes, they will build really cloud servers in Malaysia. Now, there are a lot of things to say, but I don't want to talk so much. Maybe something that is relevant for us in KICT is, when we migrate our system to the cloud, it's not just take it here, reinstall there on the cloud kind of thing.
Correct.
There are a lot of skills that our students need to be exposed. For example, the programming techniques on the cloud, and the way of managing stuff like the size of the cache memory and so on. I think maybe for the near future, because of the direction that the country wants to take for the cloud, the syllabus and the kind of thing we teach and expose our students has also to be orientated towards this direction in the way the technology is pushing. They are quite interesting and challenging. And there are many opportunities given by Amazon and Microsoft to the university for masih lagi free certification and so on. I think as lecturers, we should start exposing ourselves to this new skill so that slowly we can inject them into our syllabus and curriculum and so on. I want to stop there. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi.
Thank you so much, Prof, for that good discussion, that enlightening talk about the current situations. Yes, when we first started this particular research, I was like thinking about that, and then we went through in the universities also, because I do not know the in thing about what's going on in universities, but we can see, that we are trying to employ technologies like on the cloud from iTaklif, and we have seen some events taking place that relates to that. So these are motivations for us to go forward, and in terms of the skills and competencies that we need to actually develop in terms of the cloud and also big data. And you have also highlighted the same thing about the other organizations have highlighted, is about, you know, that feeling of having the servers close to you rather than somewhere else. So you basically have the same feeling lah, with the organizations that we talk to. Itulah. Maybe, you know, something that...
Actually, it has been quite sad in Malaysia because you see, before this, because of the instability in Malaysia, the major providers, they bypass Malaysia. The new one, which apart from Singapore, they're developing in Indonesia, and they didn't have that confidence in the Malaysian government. I mean, many months before this, until the government really flex their muscle and say that, you know, if you want, you better put the servers really in Malaysia. But they are like a second tier servers, not like the first tier. The new ones are actually being put in Indonesia, gitu. So not in Malaysia.
All right. Thank you, Prof. Something worth thinking about, yeah, for us and also for our teaching and learning. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Lili and Prof. Novik. So is there any more question that you want to ask Dr. Lili?
I think okay, good.
So in the chat box, brother,
something.
Yeah, it would be nice to have a sharing session on this issue with the
Yes,
CIO
maybe
of
in the future,
UAE,
in the
with Prof.
future we can have a
Novik.
session, Prof.
Yes.
Oh,
You're
you
still
are
there.
actually discouraging me to talk. I don't want to talk anymore because talk then kena gitu, tak syok.
A separate topic lah, related but a separate topic.
But the university, memang the management of the university, the instruction has been, the university is moving in the direction of migrating to the cloud. It's just that as of now, we are still nervous. For example,
Yes.
the system gaji, system academic, these are, we are not yet comfortable to migrate to the cloud. But slowly other system, we want to move to the cloud, and that is the direction that the university management wants to take. So I really think that in KICT, we should start picking up this technology as well.
Great, Prof. Great.
So I think from what's being discussed, I can see that there is still room of improvement. So perhaps to have a robust control and governance of the big data system, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
We cannot be 100% foolproof, but we should be moving towards that.
Okay, so I think that's wrap up all the. There's a from Dr. Nuha in the chat box.
Just to share, Dr. Nuha mentioned, just to share, a few years ago, CGSO was against government data migration to CC, cloud computing, mainly due to security and privacy issues. Yes, correct. But, you know, it depends on those people at the top lah.
Yes, so security and trust is a main issue for big data. So I think what can be done is that perhaps the organization should identify areas where big data, how big data actually can provide business value and make it clear to the business users. Right, Dr. Lili?
Yes, that's true.
So it's about being transparent to the users. So I think it's time. So there's no more questions. So I would like to thank Dr. Lili for the very valuable insight on cloud computing and big data. So perhaps we can end our seminar with Tasbih Kifara and Surah Al-Ans. So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Lili. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for coming. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Lili.
Salam.
Thank you.